I did the responsible thing. Every extra dollar I had went straight to my mortgage. 2 extra payments a year, just like everyone tells you to. Then, I built a spreadsheet to prove it was the right decision. Instead, it proved I was asking the wrong question. And once I found the right question, the answer kept changing.
$2,594. That's my mortgage payment. For the last 3 years, every time I've had extra money, a bonus, a tax refund, a good month, I've done the same thing. I've sent it here. Because somebody told me a long time ago, if you make 2 extra mortgage payments a year, you pay your house off years early, and I believed that. Not because I ran the numbers, because it felt responsible. My coworker Marcus just texted me a screenshot. His mortgage balance, 0. Debt-free at 41. Never felt lighter. And my first thought wasn't good for him. My first thought was, how is he going to retire faster than me if he just spent the last 10 years pouring money into a house that isn't going to pay him back a dime until he sells it? That's the wrong question, and I didn't know it yet. The question I was asking was, which one gets rid of the debt faster? I never once asked, which one makes me richer? I almost closed the laptop right there. But something about that number bugged me. 6.5%. I knew that number. It was staring at me the whole time. That's not just my payment. That's my rate. That's what this loan costs me. So every extra dollar I send in early, it's not making me money. It's just not costing me money anymore. 6.5% I stop paying. That's the whole trade. Which means when I send in an extra payment, I already know exactly what I'm getting. 6.5% guaranteed. Every time, forever. I didn't love how that sentence ended. Guaranteed sounded like the best word in the sentence. It's actually the smallest. So I went and looked up the other number. What the market's actually averaged. Not what it did last year, not the good years people quote you. Full stretches, 30 years at a time. Every starting point you could pick. 8%. Give or take, depending which 30 years you land on. But 8. Not because someone told me, because I checked it myself, twice, assuming I'd typoed it the first time. So that $1,700 I sent in last month, it's not earning 8. It's not earning anything. It just stopped owing 6.5. It's sitting inside a wall now. It doesn't grow. It doesn't compound. It just isn't debt anymore. That's when I actually sat down and built it out. Not a guess. The real numbers. Here's the setup. $500,000 house. Person A puts 20% down. $100,000. Starts with a $400,000 loan. Person B puts 3% down. $15,000. Starts with a $485,000 loan. That's an $85,000 difference sitting right there at closing. I built the spreadsheet, ran it, got a number, and the number said person A wins. I sat back and almost believed it. Almost closed the laptop a second time, feeling smug, like I'd just proven myself right. Then I actually read my own formulas. I'd given person A their extra house payments, the 2 extra a year. And I'd also given them the market. I had them investing their monthly savings the entire time, right alongside paying down the smaller loan. Of course they won. I'd built a version of person A who gets to do both. That's not the actual choice anybody's making. Nobody pays extra on the house and also invests that same dollar. It's one or the other. That's the whole point of the question. So I tore it back down and rebuilt it the honest way. Person A takes their extra money, the equivalent of 2 extra mortgage payments a year, and it goes into the house. Nowhere else. Just like I've been doing for 3 years. Person B takes that exact same amount every single month and it goes into the market instead. Nothing extra toward the house. And person B invests that $85,000 head start on day 1 too. Same dollars. Same timeline. One question, where do they live for the next 30 years? I ran it again. This time it wasn't close. Person A pays their house off in just over 20 years. Feels incredible. Zero debt, full ownership. That pride is real, and I'm not going to pretend it isn't. But for those 20 years, every extra dollar they sent in was earning them 6.5% and doing nothing else. It couldn't compound anywhere. It was locked inside a house. Person B never paid extra. Never accelerated anything. Just let the mortgage run its normal course and let their money sit in the market the entire time. By year 30, Person B is ahead by over $1 million. $1,067,000 to be exact. I stared at that number for a solid minute, making sure a decimal point hadn't moved somewhere. But then I caught myself on something else. Something that felt like cheating. Even though I hadn't done it on purpose. Person B's number, was I counting the house? Because Person B still owns a $500,000 house too. They didn't skip buying one. If I'm only counting their investment account and forgetting they also own a home, I'm not comparing net worth. I'm comparing half of one person's life to all of the others. So I went back in and forced myself to lay out every single asset side by side. Home value, loan balance remaining, what's left over, investments on top of that, added together into one real number for each person. Both homes were worth the exact same thing at year 30, $1,403,000. Same house, same appreciation, financed two completely different ways. The house doesn't know how you paid for it. That's when the real shape of this showed up. It wasn't house versus stocks. Both of them end up owning the identical house either way. The house cancels out of the comparison completely. The entire gap comes from one place only, where the extra dollars spent 20 to 30 years sitting, locked inside debt paydown or compounding in the market. At that point, I almost published the video right there. $1 million gap, clean answer, done. But one sentence I'd written to myself kept bothering me before I hit export. The math favors investing almost every time I ran it. Almost every time. Not every time. If it's not every time, there's a line somewhere. A point where this actually flips. And I realized I didn't know where that line was. I'd proven investing wins in my situation. I hadn't proven anything about anyone else's. So I closed the finished video and went hunting for the edge instead. First thing I changed was the easiest one. The rate itself. At 6.5%, investing wins big. I already knew that. So I started turning the mortgage rate up, 1 point at a time, rerunning the same 30-year model each time. 7, 7.5, 8. At 8%, it's basically a coin flip. The gap that used to be $1 million is down to something you could lose in a bad decade. I kept going. 9%. Person A wins. Outright. My guaranteed 6.5% against the market's 8 was one thing. My guaranteed 9% against the market's 8 isn't a math problem anymore. It's not even a bet. So the first real answer I found is, this whole video, every number I gave you, only holds at the rate I actually have. Somebody sitting on an 8 or 9% mortgage right now is not watching the same movie I am. For them, paying it off isn't the emotional choice. It's the correct one. That's the first variable. Rate. Second thing I changed was time. Not the mortgage's timeline, mine. Every number so far assumed 30 years to let this play out. That's fine at 35. It's a different question entirely if you're 55 with 10 years until you want to stop working. So I reran it. Same 6.5% rate, same extra dollars, but this time I capped it. What does each path look like after 10 years, not 30? At 10 years, Person B is barely ahead. A few tens of thousands of dollars, not $1 million. Because the whole engine that made investing win, 20 years of uninterrupted compounding, that engine needs time to actually turn over. cut the runway to 10 years, and you've taken away the only thing that was doing the work. There's a version of this that's worse than a small win, too. If the market has a bad 10 years, not a crash, just a flat, mediocre stretch, person B could genuinely end up behind. At 30 years, time smooths almost everything out. At 10 years, it doesn't get the chance to. Second variable, runway. Then I found the one that actually got me. I went back to my own numbers and asked a question I'd skipped completely. Where was the extra money coming from in the first place? The whole model assumes you've got some extra amount every month, and the only decision is whether it goes to the house or the market. But that's not actually the first decision most people are making. Most people have a retirement account sitting there, a 401k, an IRA, with room in it they're not using. And retirement accounts aren't just the market with extra steps. Money in there grows. Without getting taxed on the way, sometimes gets matched by an employer for free before it's even yours. So I ran it one more way. Same extra dollars. But instead of a normal taxable investment account, they went into a retirement account first, up to the max, before anything touched the mortgage or a regular brokerage account at all. The gap got bigger, because now the money wasn't just compounding. It was compounding without the government taking a cut on the way, in some cases with free money added on top before it started. I realized I'd been asking house or market as if those were the only two places money could live. They're not even the top two. If you're not already maxing a retirement account, this whole video was never really about the mortgage at all. It was about a decision you made, or didn't make, before the mortgage question ever came up. Third variable, what you're actually comparing the mortgage against: rate, runway, alternatives, 3 variables, and every one of them moves the line. My phone buzzes again. Marcus again. So, are you going to pay yours off too? And for the first time, I didn't answer it with math. Because here's what I'd been missing the whole time I was chasing the bigger number. Marcus and I aren't buying the same thing. I'm buying expected net worth. A number that's higher on average over enough time, if enough things go right. Marcus bought something else. He bought a Tuesday where a missed paycheck doesn't turn into a foreclosure notice. He bought not doing math every time the market drops 8% in a week. And then I thought about why that mattered more to him than it does to me, and it wasn't really about temperament. It was about margin. I checked my own numbers. What I bring in every month against what I actually need to survive it. Mortgage, everything. There's real room in between. If I lost my job tomorrow, it would hurt. It wouldn't be the end of the house. Marcus's margin is thinner. Same mortgage payment as mine, less space around it. For him, the extra $100,000 or $85,000, sitting in home equity instead of a brokerage account, that's not just certainty he likes the feeling of. That's the difference between a bad month and a bad year. The math doesn't know that. It treats every dollar the same, whether you're carrying a wide margin or a thin one. But a thin margin makes a guaranteed, boring 6.5% return worth more than the spreadsheet says it is, because what you're actually buying is room to survive the bad version of next year. We're pricing risk differently, not because one of us is smarter, because we're not standing on the same ground. So here's where I actually landed, and it's not the clean rule I thought I was going to end on. Every mortgage decision like this one really comes down to 3 things: your rate, your runway, and what your money's actual alternative is, whether that's the market or a retirement account you haven't maxed, or just the room you need if things go wrong. Change any one of those, and the right answer changes with it. If you've got a normal rate, decades of runway, unused retirement space, and real margin under you, the math isn't close. Every extra dollar is worth more working in the market than it's worth being early on a house payment. Move any one of those, and the line moves too. Sometimes it moves all the way over. I have to be honest about something before I end this because I don't want to hand you a rule and pretend it's guaranteed. That 8% market return doesn't arrive in a straight line, and anyone who tells you this is risk-free in either direction is selling you something. So I didn't send in extra this month. I'm not saying I won't ever again. I'm saying I finally know what I'm actually trading when I do. And I know now it's not a fixed answer. It's a line that moves depending on where you're standing when you ask the question. For 20 years, my extra money can feel safe. Or it can be at work. I just don't know yet which 20 years I'm going to get.